Nobody saw this coming, and now the entire internet is in meltdown mode. Because just minutes ago, yes, minutes, Joseline Hernandez dropped a bombshell so explosive, so unexpected, it has fans questioning everything they thought they knew about her life, her marriage, and the man standing beside her, Ballistic beats. We are talking about a pregnancy announcement that didn't just come out of nowhere, it came wrapped in mystery, tension, and whispers of secrets that were never supposed to reach the public. Because here's where it gets wild. This wasn't a soft, glowing, picture-perfect reveal. No. This came with cryptic posts, emotional undertones, and what insiders are calling a timeline that does not add up. Within seconds of the announcement hitting social media, fans started digging, and what they found. It sent shockwaves across every platform. Old clips resurfacing. Deleted posts suddenly reappearing. Comments that once meant nothing now screaming hidden meaning. And now people are asking the question nobody can ignore. Was this pregnancy planned? Or is this the beginning of something much bigger, much messier, and way more explosive than anyone is ready for? Because behind the smiles, behind the celebration, behind the carefully curated image, there are rumors. There are leaks. And there are voices, quiet, but growing louder by the second, saying this story is not what it seems. And trust me, what's about to come out next could change everything. The second that announcement hit, it didn't land like a celebration, it landed like a shockwave tearing straight through the internet, leaving confusion, excitement, and suspicion colliding all at once. Because when Joseline Hernandez posted those first cryptic words hinting at new life, fans didn't just react, they investigated. And what they found in those first few minutes sent the entire situation spiraling into something nobody expected. At first glance, it looked like a simple reveal. A glowing caption. A subtle image. A message that suggested joy, growth, and a new chapter with Ballistic beats. But the deeper people looked, the more the cracks started to show. Because almost immediately, eagle-eyed followers began pointing out something strange: timestamps. The timing of the announcement didn't match recent appearances. Clips from just weeks ago showed Joseline performing, moving, living in a way that didn't seem to align with what fans now believed was happening behind the scenes. And in internet culture, when timelines don't line up, theories don't just start, they explode. Within minutes, side-by-side comparisons flooded social media. Videos slowed down. Photos zoomed in. People analyzing outfits, body language, angles, anything that could confirm or deny what they were being told. And suddenly, what should have been a celebration turned into a full-blown investigation. But that was just the beginning. Because then came the alleged insider messages. Anonymous accounts began dropping receipts, claims of conversations, whispers from people close to the situation, hints that this announcement wasn't as spontaneous as it seemed. They talked about tension behind the scenes. About arguments that had allegedly happened just weeks prior. About moments where things between Joseline and Ballistic weren't as solid as they appeared online. And those claims, they lit a fire. Because now fans weren't just questioning the timing, they were questioning the stability of the entire relationship. Then came the voice clip. A short, unclear recording that started circulating in private groups before spilling onto public platforms. The audio was messy, layered with background noise, but people swore they could hear raised voices, an argument, emotional, intense, and raw. No confirmation. No clear context. But enough to send speculation into overdrive. Was it them? Was it recent? Was it even real? It didn't matter. Because the internet had already decided it was connected. And just like that, the narrative shifted again. Now this wasn't just about a pregnancy. It was about what led up to it. Because if those alleged arguments were real, then what happened between that moment and this announcement? What changed? Or more importantly, what was being covered up? Then came the social media chaos. Fans split into camps almost instantly. One side celebrating, defending, insisting that love evolves, that relationships go through ups and downs, that a baby can be a blessing regardless of timing. The other side, not convinced. They pointed to the leaks, the timeline inconsistencies, the sudden shift in tone, and asked the question nobody could ignore. Why now? Why this moment? Why this announcement in the middle of what appears to be unresolved tension? And that's when older footage started resurfacing. Clips from interviews where Joseline spoke about independence, about control, about never allowing herself to be put in a vulnerable position again. Those words, once empowering, now sounded almost contradictory to what people believed they were witnessing. Because vulnerability was now front and center, and fans didn't know how to process it. Meanwhile, Ballistic's online presence became just as scrutinized. Every post, every caption, every interaction was analyzed like evidence. People pointed out what he wasn't saying, what he hadn't posted. The lack of an immediate, clear, celebratory response compared to Joseline's energy. And that silence, it didn't go unnoticed. Because in moments like this, silence becomes its own statement. Then came the celebrity reactions. Not direct confirmations. Not full statements. But subtle signals, likes on certain posts, comments that hinted at surprise, emojis that didn't quite match the tone of celebration. And in the world of celebrity culture, those subtle reactions often say more than anything spoken out loud. The tension grew thicker. The theories grew louder. And the story kept expanding. Because just when it seemed like the internet had reached peak speculation, another twist dropped. A leaked DM, allegedly sent weeks before the announcement. In it, someone, identity blurred, context unclear, hinted at a major life change that was coming whether people are ready or not. At the time, it meant nothing. Now, it felt like a warning. And that's when everything shifted again. Because now the narrative wasn't just reactive. It started to feel planned. Strategic. Like pieces of a puzzle that were being placed long before anyone realized they were part of a bigger picture. And the biggest question of all started echoing across every platform. Was this announcement about joy? Or control? Because if the timeline, the leaks, and the emotional tension are even partially true, then what we are witnessing isn't just a pregnancy reveal. It's a turning point. A moment that could either strengthen everything or expose cracks that can't be hidden anymore. And just when fans thought they had seen every angle, a new video surfaced. And this one might change everything. The moment that new video surfaced, everything people thought they had pieced together started to feel incomplete, like the story they were building was missing its most explosive chapter. Because this wasn't another blurry clip or recycled footage. This was fresh, recent, and, according to the accounts pushing it, captured just days before Joseline Hernandez made her announcement. And what was in that video? Tension. Not subtle tension. Not the kind you can explain away with a bad day or a misunderstanding. This was sharp, visible, undeniable tension between Joseline and Ballistic Beats, caught in what looked like an off-camera moment that was never meant to be seen. The clip showed them in what appeared to be a private setting, no glam, no filters, no performance energy. Just raw interaction. Joseline pacing. Ballistic standing still, arms folded, saying something that viewers couldn't quite hear, but could definitely feel. Her response. Immediate. Emotional. Intense. The internet didn't even need audio. The body language told its own story. And within seconds of that clip hitting timelines, the narrative exploded into something much darker. Because now the question wasn't just why now. It became what happened right before this. Fans slowed the footage down frame by frame, pointing out micro-expressions, gestures, the distance between them, the way Joseline's energy shifted from one second to the next. People began interpreting every movement like it was evidence in a case that was already halfway decided. And then came the breakdown threads. Long, detailed posts mapping out a supposed timeline that connected everything: the earlier alleged voice clip, the resurfaced interviews, the cryptic posts, and now this video. According to these threads, the relationship hadn't just been going through tension, it had allegedly reached a breaking point. But instead of breaking, something changed. And that change was the announcement. Now the theories took a sharper turn. Some fans began suggesting that the pregnancy reveal wasn't just a personal milestone, it was a pivot. A shift in narrative. A way to redirect attention, to reshape the conversation, to turn chaos into celebration before things could spiral any further. Others pushed back hard, calling that idea disrespectful, insisting that life doesn't follow neat timelines, that relationships are complicated, that joy can exist even in messy moments. But the debate didn't calm anything down. It made everything louder. Because now both sides were fighting to control the meaning of what people were seeing. And in the middle of that chaos, more leaks. Screenshots began circulating that allegedly showed conversations between people close to the situation, hinting at disagreements over timing, over decisions, over what should and shouldn't be made public. Again, nothing confirmed, but detailed enough to feel real, specific enough to keep people hooked. One message in particular caught attention. A line that read, "This changes everything whether we are ready or not." Fans connected it immediately to that earlier leaked DM. Now it didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like a pattern. Then came the emotional reactions. Fans who had supported Joseline for years expressed confusion, even disappointment, not because of the pregnancy itself, but because of the way everything around it felt unclear. Others rallied behind her, defending her fiercely, calling out the internet for overanalyzing, for turning a personal moment into a spectacle. And that divide, it only made the situation more intense. Meanwhile, Joseline's own social media activity became the center of attention again. Every post was dissected. Every caption read like a coded message. Some saw strength, control, and confidence. Others saw subtle hints of stress, pressure, and something deeper beneath the surface. And Ballistic. His silence grew louder. Because as the conversation intensified, as the speculation reached new heights, as his name trended alongside hers, he remained largely quiet. No long statement. No detailed explanation. Just presence, visible, but not vocal. And in a moment like this, presence without clarity raises more questions than answers. Then came the celebrity whispers. Not public statements, but behind-the-scenes murmurs that started leaking into commentary circles. Names weren't always attached, but the tone was consistent: surprise, concern, curiosity. People within the industry, who had watched the relationship unfold, were now watching the public reaction and, according to insiders, asking their own questions. Because what the public was seeing didn't fully match what some believed had been happening privately. And that disconnect, it fueled everything. Then came the turning point. A live stream clip, short, chaotic, emotional, where Joseline addressed the noise without addressing specifics. Her tone was strong, defiant, but layered with something else. Something that fans couldn't quite define. Some called it frustration. Others called it exhaustion. Some even called it vulnerability. And in that moment, the entire conversation shifted again. Because now people weren't just analyzing the situation. They were analyzing her. Her voice. Her pauses. Her choice of words. Trying to read between lines that may or may not have existed. And the more they looked, the more divided they became. Because for every person who saw strength, another saw pressure. For every person who saw confidence, another saw defense. And that's when the story reached a point where facts didn't matter as much as interpretation. Because interpretation was running the show. But just when it seemed like everything had reached its peak. When the leaks, the clips, the reactions, the theories had all collided into one overwhelming storm. A final claim surfaced. Not a video. Not a screenshot. A statement. From someone claiming to have been there. And what they said, if it's true, could rewrite the entire story again. Because according to that claim, the moment everyone thought they understood wasn't even the real beginning. And if that's the case, then what's coming next isn't just another twist. It's the truth finally catching up. That final claim didn't just ripple through the internet, it ripped straight through it like a shockwave nobody could outrun. Because this wasn't another vague post or a faceless rumor. This was detailed. Specific. Structured like someone who had been watching everything unfold from the inside, waiting for the exact moment to drop what they knew. And the timing. Too perfect. Because just as the narrative around Joseline Hernandez and Ballistic Beats had reached its most chaotic peak, this so-called insider stepped in and flipped the entire conversation one more time. According to the statement, the tension people were only now seeing on video. That wasn't new. It wasn't recent. It had allegedly been building for months, quietly, privately, behind closed doors where cameras weren't supposed to reach. The claim described disagreements over control, over public image, over decisions that would affect both of them long term. And the most explosive part. The pregnancy, according to this source, wasn't the start of a new chapter. It was the turning point of an existing one. That single line. It sent the internet into absolute meltdown. Because if that's true, then everything people thought they were watching, a sudden reveal, a surprising announcement, a spontaneous moment of joy, becomes something else entirely. Something layered. Something complicated. Something that might have been shaped by everything that came before it. And suddenly, the timeline didn't just feel messy. It felt intentional. Fans immediately went back through every piece of content again, this time with a completely different lens. That earlier video of tension. Now it looked like a breaking point. That cryptic caption. Now it sounded like a decision being hinted at. That live stream. Now it felt like someone trying to hold control in the middle of chaos. Every piece of the puzzle started to shift position. And the more it shifted, the more unsettling the picture became. Then came the emotional fallout. Because once people started believing, even partially, that this wasn't just a simple, joyful announcement, the tone of the conversation changed. What was once excitement became concern. What was once celebration became analysis. And what was once support became divided into camps that couldn't agree on what they were actually witnessing. Some fans doubled down on support, saying none of the speculation mattered, that a child is always a blessing, that the relationship dynamics were nobody's business. Others couldn't ignore what they felt were too many inconsistencies, too many unanswered questions, too many moments that didn't quite align. And that divide, it got louder. Because now it wasn't just about what happened. It was about what people believed. Meanwhile, Joseline's next move became the most anticipated moment of the entire situation. Would she address the claims directly? Would she ignore them completely? Would she flip the narrative again? Every second of silence stretched longer than the last. Every post, if it came, was dissected instantly. And when she finally appeared again, even briefly, even without saying much, The reaction was immediate. Some saw strength. Others saw pressure. Some saw control. Others saw someone navigating a storm that had grown far bigger than anyone expected. And Ballistic, still largely silent. And that silence had now become one of the loudest elements of the entire story. Because at this point, people weren't just asking about Joseline's perspective. They wanted his. They wanted clarity. They wanted confirmation. They wanted something that would anchor the chaos to something real. But instead, there was stillness. And in a situation this explosive, stillness doesn't calm anything down. It amplifies everything. Then came the final twist. A wave of posts, synchronized, almost eerily timed, appeared across multiple platforms, all echoing the same sentiment: you don't know the full story. No names. No details. Just that line. Over and over. From different accounts. Different voices. But the same message. And that's what pushed everything over the edge. Because now the internet didn't just feel like it was missing pieces. It felt like it was being kept from them. And when people feel like there's more hidden than revealed, they don't stop. They dig harder. They question louder. They push further. And that's exactly what started happening. Every past moment became relevant again. Every interaction re-examined. Every timeline rebuilt for the third, fourth, fifth time. Because now, more than ever, people believed there was something deeper beneath the surface. Something not fully exposed. Something that hadn't been said out loud yet. And that belief, it's what keeps a story like this alive. Because at this point, it's no longer just about the pregnancy. It's about everything surrounding it. The tension. The leaks. The timing. The silence. The reactions. The unanswered questions. All of it combined into one massive, unpredictable narrative that refuses to settle. And the most unsettling part. We are still in the middle of it. Because if what that insider claimed is even partially true, then the biggest reveal hasn't happened yet. And when it does, it won't just add to the story. It will redefine it completely. Leaving one final question hanging in the air, louder than anything else. What really happened before the announcement? Because whatever that answer is, it's the one thing that could change everything. And now you see why this isn't just another headline you scroll past and forget. This is one of those stories that keeps evolving every single hour, the kind where one new detail can flip everything you thought you understood. And if you blink, even for a second, you might miss the moment that changes the entire narrative. So here's the deal. If you've made it this far, you're already deep in it. You've seen the twists, the leaks, the silence, the reactions, the chaos. But trust me, this is far from over. Not even close. Because stories like this don't just end, they explode when the final piece drops. And when it does, you're going to want to be here. So don't just watch quietly and disappear. Hit that like button right now if you felt even a fraction of how intense this situation has become. That tells the algorithm this story matters, and trust me, you want this to stay on your radar. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is where things get real. What do you actually believe is going on behind the scenes? Do you think everything is exactly what it looks like? Or do you think we are still missing something major? The comments are where the real debate happens, and right now, everyone's watching everyone. And most importantly, subscribe. Because the next update, it's not going to be small. It's not going to be subtle. It's going to hit hard, fast, and without warning. And if you're not locked in when it drops, you're going to be catching up while everyone else is already reacting. Turn on notifications so you don't get left behind when the next piece of this story surfaces, because it will. Stay alert. Stay watching. And whatever you do, don't assume you've seen the full picture yet.